Is your retirement date on the letter written by your friend Brad Eskridge, is that retirement date correct?
No.
What date is that?
December 31st, 2017. I retired in 2014. I believe it was December 28th.
Did Brad Eskridge retire on December 31st, 2017?
Yes.
So your employment verification letter written by your friend Brad Eskridge actually has Brad Eskridge's retirement date on here?
That might have been why he made a mistake. Yes.
How does that happen?
Maybe that date was on his mind since he was retiring that year. Maybe he thought mine was December 31st, 2014 and did 17 because the date was on his mind.
Okay. If you were to apply for a job and an employer asked for employment verification, I would provide a DD-214. What is an equivalent form for your situation, for a law enforcement officer with the BOP? What would be the form that you would provide? Is there a standard form?
There's not a standard form. In federal employment, they don't usually ask you for that employment because you're already within the OPM system if it's with federal employment. Other than that, it would be a regular resume that you provide. If they needed to see my retirement documents, it would be the same one that you've received, which I believe is an SF-82.
All right, we'll talk about and that's the FERS document that you're referring to?
The FERS?
The Federal Employment Retirement System that you provided production?
I don't know if it's referred to that.
Stop. Can you, if we're going to reference a document, can you please show it to me first? Because I said,
Fair
a lot
enough,
of documents, so
Yeah.
I don't care you ask me a question. I
Sure.
want to see the person, let it know for the record, the court reporter,
Yeah.
which
All
document.
right, fair enough. We'll set that aside until we get to the document. I guess what I'm asking Councilman Solis is, if I were asked for verification that I was in the Air Force, I would provide DD-214. I would provide pictures. I would provide badges or ID cards like this. This is my DD-214. Is there an equivalent? Is there anything that I can look at that's not simply a letter from a friend? Is there anything I can look at that's equivalent to that?
Going to object. Have you ever seen this document? Do you know?
No, I haven't.
I mean, you can ask a question, but
I guess what I'm asking is there an equivalent form? Is there a document that one would provide and say, this is a standard document that my friend didn't write. This is a standard document.
When you fill out a federal employment application for promotions or all the applications that I submitted, they're done on the appropriate form under penalty of perjury if you lie on that application. So that's what's done. We don't have to provide anything like a DD-214, which is common for military, but it's not common in civil service.
Is there any equivalent document?
You were provided an SF-82 that shows my retirement, but that's not normally used where people go around showing their SF-82. There's no need to.
What is normally shown? A badge?
I've retired from federal service. After my retirement went through and my checks started arriving, I haven't had to show anything because I haven't applied for positions.
All right. I asked in interrogatories about that very thing.
sorry to interrupt. Are you going to mark these exhibits?
Yes,
3 and 4?
thank you. Well, these are, and these are in production. Thank you.
I get it. This is just for the
Understand.
transcript, so
Thank you.
you don't have to do it if you want to. It's up to you, but
I don't mind. Make it transparent and easy. All right. And so, in my request for production, I asked you about your retirement. You just mentioned when the checks come in. I presume you're talking about your pension, right? Your retirement checks.
Correct.
And I've asked to see these checks. Maybe that'll help me verify your employment. And you didn't produce them. Do you have them? How much are they? Are they every 2 weeks or are they every month?
I'm paid on a monthly basis.
So these are monthly checks, and they come from where?
U.S. Treasury.
U.S. Treasury. And is that what it says on the check, U.S. Treasury?
I have direct deposit.
Direct deposit. And how much are these checks?
I'm going to object to that. That's no relevancy in this case at all.
You're objecting based on relevancy or form?
Relevancy.
Okay, can we certify that question, please? We'll ask I'd like to ask the judge, but we'll move along here. All right. So you do receive the monthly checks from Treasury. Now, back to Brad Eskridge, who wrote this letter that you call the employment verification letter. At the very end of the letter, it says, additionally, Mr. Solis has 4 years with the Department of Defense. Is it common that the Consolidated Benefits Unit would talk about your DOD experience?
Yes.
That is normal. They can confirm that.
Yes.
Okay.
They have my personnel file.
Let's talk about your DOD service. In what capacity did you work with the Department of Defense?
I was a WG-10 electrician at Goodfellow Air Force Base.
Okay. And what years would that have been?
I believe from 84 to 88, 1984 to 88 in that time frame, more or less.
Is this before or after you attended the academy?
This is prior to my law enforcement career.
Okay. And I saw you on a TV show. I saw you on Military Hour. You were on there with Warrior Beach Retreat. And on there, you were asked if you were ever in the military, and your answer was, I trained the military. I trained the military. Will you tell me about when you trained the military and in what capacity?
My answer was that I was not in the military, but I did work with the Department of Defense, and part of my duties did include helping train some young airmen.
You mentioned civil engineering. Was it in the capacity of civil engineering?
That was the squadron I worked for, was the CE squadron.
Are you a civil engineer?
Civil engineer is the name of the squadron that handles all the maintenance of the Air Force Base.
Are you a civil engineer?
I am not.
But you work for that squadron. And so who exactly did you train?
I trained many young airmen
Young airmen. To do what?
in their capacity to learn the field of being an electrician.
What kind of stuff? Like, what would be some of the jobs they would do that you would teach them?
Taught them how to bend conduit, pull wire, make connections, work on disconnects. I taught them how to work on 600 cycle generators, 28 volt DC controls. I taught them on electrical hookup to generators for rapid runway repair that they were part of members for if they were deployed on rapid runway repair. Just a whole host of things that a normal electrician would do at the time. Goodfellow Air Force Base was going through ATC.
Which Air Force Base was this?
Goodfellow Air Force Base was consolidating. All ATC command was consolidating there, so most of it was in computer rooms and running all the wiring necessary to bring all the equipment in.
Did you ever train the military on any military tactics?
No.
You had mentioned your law enforcement credentials, and well, we'll move along up. I'll save that question for a moment. How much time do we have, Michael, before we change the battery? I believe we're going to be changing the battery every hour.
This is Michael.
Oh, sorry.
No, we won't need to change the battery every hour.
Okay.
We are probably good for about another hour, and at the 10-minute mark, I'll just hold my hands up, and then you can finish up the line, and we can take a
Okay.
quick break.
All right. And we are only 38 minutes into this, okay. Now, in the interrogatory 2 that I gave you, my second question was, Oh, there you go, sorry. This would be the production. Thank you.
And I'll make a copy of that too.
Sure. All right, this is it.
Okay.
That is the letter from Brad Eskridge. Interrogatories. So in interrogatory 2, I asked you to please identify all persons you believe may have discoverable information relevant to this complaint and describe the nature of the information possessed by such persons. And you listed Brad Eskridge, Betty Pisano, Drew Wickman, and Greg Peel. How do you know Greg Peel?
Greg Peel works for, Captain Peel is retired with the Bay County Sheriff's Office, but continues duties for the Bay County Sheriff's Office. But at the time, I believe approximately 4 years ago, was the individual that I started certifying with my LEOSA, which is under the Law Enforcement Safety Act. So he qualifies me annually to be able to carry a weapon within all 50 states.
And you said it's Captain Peel?
Yes, that was his title.
So Greg Peel. And he is still employed in some capacity with the Bay County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, because he just certified me again, I believe in February. So every year he is certified my firearms training.
Okay, certifies firearms training, okay. And he would be somebody who could confirm your law enforcement career?
He had to verify my credentials in order to be able to go ahead and authorize me to carry under LEOSA.
And what credentials did you show?
My Department of Justice credentials.
What are they exactly? Are they a form?
They're an identification that state that I'm a retired federal law enforcement officer.
Have I seen this form?
You have not.
Well, I asked you to. I asked for any forms that would verify your law enforcement career.
That is not a form. That's a credential.
Is it a document?
I can't.
Is it a document as we define it in our production?
Object to the form. You can answer.
I can't tell you, but I don't consider it a document. I consider them credentials.
And you've never shown me those?
I attempted to show them to you under a gentleman's agreement, and you violated the agreement by then trying to take a picture after I requested that you not take any type of form of picture of them.
Okay. But to confirm, I've never seen these credentials.
Object, asked and answered. You can answer.
In the affirm?
No.
Okay. You mentioned that you attempted to show me these credentials. What do they look like?
Like most law enforcement credentials.
I don't know what that looks like, Councilman Solis.
It's hard to explain to you if you haven't seen Department of Justice credentials.
Can I see
Can't
it?
explain them to you. I actually do not have them on me.
Can I see it tomorrow?
If the court requires me to show them to you, I will. As long as they're not produced.
Yeah. Here's a picture, you may recall, after a city council meeting. Is this the time that you wanted, that you were going to show me these credentials and did not?
Just prior to that, I had my credentials out and was about to open them, yes.
And you said that we had a gentleman's agreement. What did we agree to?
I specifically stated I would show you my credentials if you agreed not to try and take a picture of them.
All right, and there's a video recording of us talking, and that would have captured you making that agreement with me?
I don't know whether it captured it or not. I can tell you that I've seen pictures where I start to pull my credentials out and you reach for your phone.
I reached for my phone.
Yes.
Do you have a picture of me reaching for my phone, or a video of me reaching for my phone?
I don't have, I believe it's in your hand, isn't it? I don't know.
That is my wallet. The video, I put the phone down on the chair. I never had the phone in my hands. Now
You also had somebody video it in from an angle.
Yes.
that I discovered.
Yes.
After I stated
Yes,
I didn't
somebody
want a
was
picture
video-
taken.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, your girlfriend.
That's correct. Yeah, the conversation was pretty heated here, wasn't it?
It wasn't heated prior. I actually had you verify with the chief of police that he had verified my credentials. He did. You still wanted to see them. We made a gentleman's agreement that I would show them if you did not try to video or copy them,
So-
and then you violated that agreement. And yeah, I was upset that you did not keep your word.
Yeah, you were angry at that point.
Is there a question?
Yes, the question is, did you call me a piece of shit?
Yes, I did.
You did, okay. And is that appropriate conduct at a city council meeting,
Object
even
to
if
the
you're
form.
upset?
You can answer.
This was after a city council meeting?
Were there residents around us?
There may have been.
Do you often call people that and get in a confrontational stance like that? when you're
Object
upset?
to the form.
No.
Are you familiar with Bay County resident Frank Sewell?
Yes.
Let's go back to October 4, 2017, in the evening, in the parking lot of Sharky's restaurant. Did you see Frank Sewell in the parking lot of Sharky's restaurant?
Yes.
And did you two have an exchange?
Yes.
Did you challenge him to a fight?
All right, I'm going to object. What does this have anything to do with the lawsuit against you? The defamation case or your affirmative defenses? I'm objecting to him answer these questions. It's not relevant to the case at all unless you can tell me or explain to me why it's relevant.
He opened the door to, being aggressive and confrontational, and the presumption is that the witness will answer most questions.
Okay, again, your questions are not relevant to this case.
Okay, so
And
you're-
they're borderlining on bad faith, in my opinion.
Okay.
Now, if you can tell me why you believe any confrontation or meeting with Mr. Sewell outside of this has any relation to the lawsuit, I won't object. But right now, I have objections.
Sure.
If you're not,
Well, as I say, I'm a layman here. I am a pro se defendant. I certainly don't have the legal knowledge that you have in these kind of proceedings. So what I'll do is note that you've objected for relevance.
Again, I'm, before we take this stuff to the court, I'm willing to let my client answer if you can explain to me or give me a reason why this is relevant. Because if we go in front of the judge is going to ask you the same question.
Yeah.
You have to. So if you tell me, give me a reason why that's relevant, I'll instruct my client whether to answer or not. If you don't want to.
Well, I think we might have a trend of angry behavior. I think we might have a trend of retaliation. I think we might have a trend of intimidation. And I think this lawsuit is an example of that. I think this lawsuit is a strategic lawsuit attempting to stifle public participation. And I'd like to explore it. I mean, we have a picture here. He opened the door to the conversation we had. I may not be the only person he's called a piece of shit, if you'll forgive my language. And I wonder if there's a trend here.
Okay. Well, I'm going to disagree. He did not open the door. You're the one who testified that there was a meeting. Presented the picture. Again, I'm going to object to relevancy. There's no reason that you do. Now, you can answer the question.
And my question was, did you have a confrontation and did you threaten to fight Frank Sewell in the parking lot that night?
I recall Mr. Sewell stalking me and my family at a restaurant as we were having a gathering. As we left, he verbally accosted me, and I said some things that upset me, yes.
Was it sort of in self-defense? Did he threaten you first?
He verbally accosted me first.
He was very aggressive, so it was a self-defense thing.
It was a reaction to being out with your family trying to enjoy an evening when somebody verbally accosts you in front of approximately 8 family members.
All right, and do I need to hand this over here?
Again, I can't
I-
advise you
okay.
whether or not, I'm just saying if you want it for the record,
All right.
that you have to give it to the court reporter. And Ms. Court Reporter, can you please tell me which one you're marking that as?
This is 4. The 3 was the letter.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
All right, back to Brad Eskridge, who wrote your letter of verification and who is a friend of yours, and who's your primary witness, Brad Eskridge. Have you ever given him accommodations? Do you rent properties for tourists?
I do.
And has he ever stayed in any of your properties?
He has not.
He has never stayed. Has he ever stayed with you
He has stayed in my home,
in your home? In your primary residence?
my primary residence. That's correct.
And this is something Mr. D.C. Matthews,
DC.
okay, this is one of the few things I've been able to find online when I search for Councilman Hector Solis, and it appears to be an adjudication from the U.S. Department of Justice. I'll show it to you. And your name is mentioned, and so is Mr. Eskridge's name.
Can I see that document?
Yes,
please?
you may, yeah.
Before you go to questions, I'd like to just ask if Mr. Solis has ever seen this
Okay.
before.
I'm probably familiar with the case. It's an FLRA case.
And it mentions, in the case, it mentions a respondent negotiator by the name of Hector Solis. Is that you?
Yes.
It also mentions Brad Eskridge. Is that the same Brad Eskridge that wrote your letter?
Yes.
Would you read the highlighted part?
I mean, yeah, because I should.
Respondent negotiator Hector Solis constantly made comments such as, "I don't know who you think you are. You are not shit. You're not running shit. All you are is a lowly unit secretary. You will never be anything more." Wright testified that Brad Eskridge, another management official, threatened union negotiator with AWOL. Eskridge does not deny that he made such statements. Testimony provides further credibility to Wright's statement that Solis made profane and demeaning statements to her during negotiations. There were no witnesses that verified that.
So this is yet another example of somebody accusing you of using that kind of language and intimidation, but I mean, is that right?
This is somebody basically lying that ended up going to federal prison 2 years later for embezzling over $100,000 from the union's money. So she was incarcerated in federal prison after that.
In this particular case, was she? How did this case go? Was she found not guilty, or did her side prevail?
I don't recall what the ruling on that FLRA was. We were in negotiations of the master agreement management with union. She happened to be my employee when she wasn't union president. But like I said, she ended up in federal prison a couple of years later.
So you and Brad Eskridge have been involved in legal proceedings in the past together?
Not legal proceedings, no. That's an FLRA complaint. That's a complaint that the union would file. Brad Eskridge was the human resource manager of the facility, so he would handle any complaint. We were both on the negotiation team for management for the master agreement, and they were long, intense negotiations for 4 months.